Okay, may start.
I'm going to start mine in 3, 2. So good morning, judges, and also my respected opponent teams. Today's motion is this House believes that national exams should be abolished in favor of continuous assessment. Well, judges, first, imagine this. It is exam season. In every corner of our country, millions of students sit down in their classrooms. Their hands are maybe a little shaky, their hearts beat fast, and their eyes are full of hope. They open the first page of national exam, and for that moment, every student, whether from a big city, just like in Jakarta, or even in a small rural village far away, faces the same test. And today, the proposition wants to abolish this system and replace it with continuous assessment. But we, the opposition, believes that this will create more harm than good. And let's respond to what the proposition team had mentioned before. They told us that they do not simply want to abolish national exams, right? But to replace them with something better. Well, first, this sounds nice in theory, but in reality, it is very risky. Now, let me tell you why. First, better is only an idea that they thought about, not a guarantee, right? Continuous assessment depends on teachers and schools judges, which are very different in quality. Some schools are rich in international curriculum, while others are poor. And some teachers are fair and others are not. So if we remove the national exam and depend only this system, students will not be judged equally. Second, already have continuous assessment in schools judges, such as homework, projects, and presentations that we do every day. National exams do not stop these from happening. They only add one final equal test for all the students, right? So what the government calls something better is not actually new. It already exists, but without national exams, of course, the system will becomes unbalanced. And if they support another type of national exams, isn't it actually they just changing the name of national exams, but with the exact same concept? And this is having an exam for the national project. So, and the last one, if the proposition team really wants to improve the system, like they said, the solution is not to abolish exams completely, judges. The solution is to fix and improve them to be something better. For example, maybe by making questions more creative or by reducing the weight, not by destroying the only fair standard that we already have. And the next one, they might also talk about the stress and unfairness that can be happen in status quo or something. But I think it is do not as dangerous as the way they think about stress and unfairness. I mean, stress is not always a harm, judges. It can also train the resilience of the student, their time management maybe, and their discipline. I mean, without exams, students will lose this kind of preparation. They will just be like, we will just have like another assessment, not the real exam. So they won't be like all preparing themselves for it. And for unfairness, I think unfairness in continuous assessment is much more worse than they only thought about the national exams. Because for example, schools can have different resources. Like maybe in school A, they have so much better resources because they are in a big city, while the other schools in rural or small area, they don't have better resources. And also, the parents can pressure the teachers, so the teachers would give the students higher score. I mean, in status quo, there's a lot of things that the similar like that things are happening. So the harm that proposition talks about does not disappear, judges. It actually becomes bigger under their model. And for the impact they were talking about, we think, just like my first speaker had mentioned before, without exams, the impact is less accountability. So the government will lose this information about which schools are maybe weak and which schools are struggling. So if we know they are struggling, then we can help them, right? And the gap between rich schools and poor will grow wider because the school that are struggling are not transparent for the government. And the second one, without exams, the impact is no clear standard, judges. So students from different schools cannot be compared fairly, and this can create confusion. Now, let me bring two strong reasons why national exams must stay. So first, accountability for schools and teachers. So why do we talk about accountability for school and teachers, judges? Well, we do strongly think and believe that national exams do not only measure for students, they also measure the schools and teachers too. I mean, when results show that students from maybe like one schools consistently score low, it becomes really clear that the school needs more attention, maybe like for the better facilities or improve their teacher of teaching methods. While without national exams, the government will never know which schools are struggling, and continuous assessment stays inside the school, right? So teachers can give high scores even when the students are not actually learning. They're just like playing about it because they thought like, oh, the teachers will just give me a normal or higher score. But while national exams, they do not put that on the system, right? The national exam shines a light on the real situation, judges. So let me give you a real exact example. So imagine two schools, judges. School A is in a big city with modern facilities and they have a lot of resources, while the school B is in a rural or small area with fewer teachers. And if you rely only on the continuous assessment, school A may look excellent, while school B also may look good because both teachers can give them the high scores they want. But with national exam, judges, we see the reality where students are falling behind, maybe where resources are lacking, and this allows the government to direct help fairly because if they do not know about it, how if it's not transparent, like the teacher just give a high marks, then how the government will know that the schools are lacking in maybe resources or about the teachers teaching methods, right? And let's move on to my next and second argument. It is preparation for real life. So why do we need preparation for real life? They might ask, but exams also prepare students, judges, for real life. In the future, the students will face more important tests, such as like maybe scholarship applications, university entrance exams, or job interviews. And this can pressure them, right? So if they do not have prepare things, then how will they face that kind of storms in the future? All of this require the ability to stay calm and also preparation for under pressure. So if they already faces like national exams, they have the experience of maybe those hard challenge in the future that they will face. And national exams give students a safe environment to practice their skills. Yes, maybe they will be nervous, and yes, it is so difficult. But learning how to manage stress is a part of education, judges. Of course, we will not just learn and think like every single kind of learning is easy, right? Of course, there will be a difficult for it, and that is the challenges we need to face. And judges, if we remove national exams, students may grow up unprepared for the competitive world outside. Let's take a closer look. Maybe like we can think of sports. If you never play in a real match, then how can you learn to handle the pressure of competition, right? Practice and training is not
Hands up. Yeah. Kalau udah 8 menit 20 detik, segera pilihkan buat closer speech, oke? Oke, good.
and because of that, we are proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Speech in 3, 2, pelajar perlu tes di Anda mau coba coba ya Coba ya.
Wait, I think kind of lagging. Wait.
Potong-potong, Mister.
In 3, 2, 1. Or moving on the classes analysis and comparative analysis. I first point out is high second also about how civilized level of education is they try to find specific education requirement and they think the only way as the school certification example is having the score of the national exam at the first place. And I don't think see the law is difficult enough. I believe that when we also apply the portfolio and also based tab, they also have a score at the end of the day, the parameters, the utilities level to recognize the student when enrolled in university, ladies and gentlemen. And we also can justify on how the result of the score that we get from the project based task and also the portfolio is much more to day one task in the national exam applications and gentlemen. And they have to that how. But once the test, it will be much more effective to see and evaluate the real capability of the students. This is actually the big question that by the opposition and the very first. And also believe that some especially developed countries like Japan, for example, how this country also successfully apply the national exam, the standardized task to determine the passing of the student of education. But forget it is not able to compare Japan and officer, for example. And we believe that Japan is the most integrated country. The students are loyal. The process of eating is not there. Developing countries like Indonesia per se, let's say. And we think at the end of the day, we know for now, this Indonesian government trying to apply this national exam at the part of the past of education. We are worried with the intent of the students, with the intent of the school, with the intent of the teachers, in the education national system. First speaker and the second speaker talked obviously at very first place on this kind of task only lead into the and learn process, which is only focusing on how to answer the question correctly. Whatever they can do to reach their goal to pass election, sorry, to pass the task without focusing on the deeper of the students. Still, what we are all about is right just also yes, that just affect the possibilities of of that please they think that is the best solution to what's called assess quality of the student and also the quality of education. But at the end of the day, they cannot guarantee how actually this kind of the national exam mechanism can really deeper or deeply measuring the quality of the competency of the student. This is actually the big question coming from our team at the very first place. Now come to the crisis analysis. First, what is the main ideas of this debate between government and also opposition? Number one, we are talking about which one is more harmful, comparing the national exam to the continuous assessment proposed by our team as the proposition. At the first place, our proposition already thinks that we have alternative mechanisms as the solutions to limit or to prevent the bad impact on the application of national exam currently, ladies and gentlemen. First, we plan to apply a certain sort of not one sort kind of task, we want to apply the portfolio test. We want to apply the project-based test. As we mentioned that when we portfolio test principle, the students are required to have a bunch of experiences during their study in a certain educational level, ladies and gentlemen. They have to find more experiences in competition, for example, like debating competitions or any other leadership competition or writing competitions or sport competition and any else based on their skills and gender. And by collecting all the input in circle, the students have a very massive to build his skills to build the understanding of relations and gentlemen based on their active in or based on their talent, for example, it's inevitable. And we believe that comparing the national exam with the imposed by the opposition, we believe that this is much better. Why? Because as all we know that the national exam, standardized national exam is only applied in one sort of the test in 3 or 4 days, Mr. Gentlemen. Then this is how the government determine which students are passing the test, which is totally unfair. And the second, and now come to the classes, what will be happening in the debate. The fairness between rural society and rural students also big cities. And they think that by applying the national exam, the standardized national exam, it will more fair, it will be fairer compared to our mechanism. But the fact is that they think never prove to us why our project-based test, why our portfolio is not equally treated by the students. How? Prove to us. And however, our students or our speakers already success to contextualize how national exam application treat the students in equal, unequal, ladies and gentlemen. Why and how? As explained by the first speaker and the second speaker, we believe that when you only apply one side of the test with one start of the test, not the schools to use their own mechanism like having the project or portfolio, for example. And it will be also unfair, of course, for all the students in Indonesia, for example, because of what? Because as the first speaker, how the facilities, for example, how the government cannot provide equal facilities, equal privilege for everyone toward the schools, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of the day, it is not fair if we force all students in Indonesia, for example, to apply or to join or to join the test in one sort of test without having giving them a chance more on their project-based learning based on the capacity and also quality do they have in the very first place. Okay. Maybe it's more about the next level of education. This is the third class of our debate. They think that we need to also think about how they continue to study in the university level. And I also believe that, as I've been mentioned at the very first place, that how at the end of the day, the university will also apply the test for the students' enrollment. They're not only applying the written test for the students, but also applying, require the students to also have portfolio, for example, to also prove the achievement, for example, to pass the test in enrolled in the university. And meaning that actually compared to the proposal, our proposal can meet the standard of the university's what's called requirement in the university's enrollment. And we prefer our proposal is much more better compared to the proposal. And if you only rely on the score, the mark you get from the national exam, which is only a one-shot exam. And we believe that this set of certificate doesn't really reflect your portfolio, doesn't really reflect your ability as a person. It's only reflect your score at the for the to those 4 days test studies and gentlemen, which is not enough to see deepen. That's why the university apply the portfolio as a requirement to see the potential of the students, ladies and gentlemen. And because of this class, believe that our team is more what's called upper hand compared to their team because we can prove and compare how our continuous assessment method will be much more effective to provide equal tests, to also provide better evaluation for the education schools as well, and to also have the student to build their potential because they can see in an overall way and many perspective their quality based on the solid or subjective study. Because of that, we're proud to propose. Thank you. Okay. Ama?
Am I audible?
Yes, what?
Yeah.
Good morning to honorable judges and my respected open teams. So today, as the third speaker of the opposition, my role today is not to bring new arguments, but to show you the big picture of this debate. And I will summarize the major cliches and explain clearly why our side has already won this debate. So first, let's talk about the fairness and unfairness that the proposition team has might claim about. So they told us that national exams are unfair, right? Because some students have better resources, better schools, or better teachers. But judges, let us look deeper. First, unfairness exists in every system. So rich students will always have more support. But the real question is which system reduces unfairness the most? And here is the truth. We totally believe that continuous assessment is even more unfair. Why? Because grading depends on the teachers. One teacher can be strict, one teacher can be soft. One school had advanced lab, while another has no. Parents can even pressure teachers to give higher grades. And in that system, students are judged more by their environment than by their own effort, just like what my second speaker had mentioned before. And at least, judges, with national exams, every student faces the same paper, under the same rules, under the same time, and that is the closest thing to equality that our education system has. So if fairness is really the value that we care about in this debate, we strongly believe that national exams are not the problem, but they are the solution. That is why on this clash of fairness, in our side, opposition clearly wins, judges. And let's talk about the second one, showing ability and credibility. They might told you that continuous assessment brings out maybe the credibility and deep understanding of the student. But in reality, credibility already exists in schools, judges, in homework, projects, or maybe in group work. So keeping national exams does not feel the credibility that they may fear about losing. And remember, judges, real life does not only test credibility, it tests problem solving under time pressure, discipline, and focus. So national exams prepare students for these realities. That is why this clash also goes to the opposition. And the third one, talking about replacement with something better. They they said we don't want to just abolish exams. We want to replace them with something better. But what kind of better they just promised without proof? Continuous assessment is not guaranteed to be better. In fact, it is inconsistent and favors privileged schools. If the goal is improvement, then we can reform the exams. We can improve the system, judges, make them more creative, reduce their weight, and combine them with maybe the projects that can improve them. But destroying or like changing them is extreme and dangerous. And also, if they're just talking about changing them with the same exam system, isn't it mean that they agree with us that national exams is important? And let's talk for the last about the guarantee challenge the second speaker of the proposition team had talked about. Maybe they challenge us like, can you guarantee what national exam system you defend? Well, our answer is strongly yes. We defend national exams as the fairest and most standardized benchmark for all students. Well, if they are asking about, are they perfect? Of course, no, judges. Every system has its flaws and it is not perfect. But they can be improved, judges. They are still far better than continuous assessment alone, right? And that is the guarantee we gave you. And judges, this debate is not just about theory. It is about which side gives the better world for students. And let us compare. First, on fairness. The proposition says exams are unfair, but they give no real solution. So while our side shows that continuous assessment is even more unfair because it depends on teachers and schools, we offers a system where every student faces the same standard, and that is more equal. And on creativity and ability, the proposition promises creativity through continuous assessment, but our side opposition shows you that creativity already exists in like what I've mentioned before, maybe in projects or homework in schools, while exams prepare students for real world pressure. So we as the opposition gives you balance and reality, not extremes or trouble of fears like the proposition. And on solution, the proposition only says but replace with something better. But they cannot prove it. They cannot also guarantee if it would be better while they are also using like the system in national exams, right? They just want to change it for something better. But we actually can make the national the sorry, the national exam systems way better. We can improve them. And that is realistic, safe, and achievable, judges. The proposition keeps doubting our exam system, but we already proves you that exams can be improved. But even in the current form, they remain the fairest option. So let's ask ourselves, what do we see? The proposition only gives you promises and risk, judges, while we as the opposition team gives you balance, fairness, and real preparation for the future. The proposition team world is unstable and uncertain, while in our world is stable, practical, and better for all of the students. That is why at the end of this debate, the winning side is clear. The opposition stands stronger and safer, and that is why we are proud to oppose. Thank you.
Teresa, reply speaker.
I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, judges and adjudicators, and my esteemed opponents, as we have witnessed from the arguments given both by the proposition and opposition side, that it is very, very clear that the proposition side has lost this debate. We have clearly already given them numerous arguments and elaborate them one by one about why national exams are very much important rather than only focusing on continuous assessments. We have given them one, intelligent students from rural area to be recognized, but they said that it only benefit the smart one. It doesn't benefit all the incompetency students, but we have actually given them a reason, a why. Motivate. It actually motivate the students to be more of a more. It actually motivates the students to be more to have more, uh, and that is the point. And that is the point of national exams, to motivate students of incompetency level. And second, continuous assessment is not enough to realize the school's capability. Only in the school that they will realize that they are better, but in outside of school they will not realize, well, there are some students in the outside of the school that they're actually better, but because they only focus on continuous assessments, that they think that, oh, they're better in this school only, but they don't know that they're also everyone that is better outside of their school. And then we have this third one, to evaluate the school's capability and competency. They said that they don't agree with it, but it's actually true. But because students from, if they rank higher in the national exams, for example, the government or the government will know that the institution, the university will know that, oh, that school is actually producing a high quality students, and for the schools that produce incompetent students, they will put more effort into rebuilding and rehabilitating those specific schools. So they're actually very helpful for the schools that has for example, bad teachers or bad headmaster. So it actually proves and makes it more transparent as to which schools are best and which schools are not that good. So as to so it actually have to benefit for it to realize what students are the best in the whole nations, and to find out what schools need to be rehabilitated, to be reworked, to be reconstruct. That is the point. And they said that unfair. They said that it's unfair for schools with bad low equipment and low or no equipment low. But as my second speaker already said, unfairness will always exist. The question is how to limit and reduce those unfairness. And the proposition team has not said any constructive arguments on why or how to reduce this unfairness. And the proposition team actually have their trump card is that they actually doesn't want to remove the national exams, but they want to change it into like making portfolio and projects. So they're actually in support of our argument. So what do we mean by, we have already mentioned and they have already mentioned about national exams. So national exams are examinations or tests taken in the national scales. So those projects are actually in the national scales. So they're actually, it's just changing the name from national exams to portfolio. So they're actually supporting our arguments, supporting the national exams. They just changed the name, but just has, and that is why the opposition team has won this debate. There is very clear that the proposition team has make the proposal about a certain thing. They think that they won this, but they actually have a very flaw. They have a very big flaw in their arguments, and that is they're actually supporting in our sides. And for all the reasons above, it is very, very clear that the proposition side has lost this debate, and we highly encourage the judges and educators to vote for team oppositions. And we are very proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, let's continue to the discussion. Okay, I think the debate was good ya, bagus, debatnya udah semakin bagus. Nah mungkin saya sebenarnya kan last night I rewatch your performance. Aku ternyata setelah saya dengar lagi udah nanti preemptif bagus di Reja sama Alma. It was good I think yesterday. Nah hari ini juga aku udah mulai ngelihat pola kalian semakin bagus, semakin rapi aja eksekusinya, gitu ya. Itu dipertahankan, ditingkatkan terus. Nah, mungkin kita lagi akan lebih sedikit tambahan yang kamu bisa ngelihat cara ngelihat kelemahan lawan, gitu ya. Nah, tadi overall I appreciate the way how you pointed out my arguments and also my setup, for example. Tapi ingat, mungkin kedalaman ketika kalian point it out, kamu mau merespon menyanggah. Misalnya kan, yang paling lemah di aku adalah, for example, I mentions about tadi yang si Reza bahas tentang national exams itu cuma kepengen ganti dengan portfolio. Itu kan harusnya muncul dari awal gitu loh, bukan muncul di reply speaker. Karena itu kan sangat sangat basic gitu kan, sangat menjadi kelas utama yang sedang kita bahas. Nah, berarti ketika kalian asking about the clarity of my mechanism of my proposal, nah, itu udah harus dihancurkan dari awal gitu. Maksudnya sebenarnya kamu tuh maunya seperti apa sih portofolio itu, misalnya maunya seperti apa sih project based test itu? Jangan-jangan ntar itu nasional standar juga, lalu bedanya apa? Coba jelaskan dong ya, gitu loh. Nah itu kan, tadi kan saya masih sangat structure. My mechanism was only on the survey structure analysis. I haven't really explained how the project-based test and how the portfolio test itu di implement. You get my point? Jadi itu udah dihancurkan dari awal gitu kan. Tadi di Alma ada sih lucu-lucu juga dan semakin bagus lagi di By Speaker. Sebenarnya kan nggak boleh menyanggah di By Speaker itu. Hal-hal yang kayak gini udah harus dari awal tuh udah hancur duluan gitu loh. Paham maksud aku? Karena aku tuh nggak jelas di awal kayak apa sih maksudnya. Paham nggak? Gitu kan? Nah itu yang paling kamu ingat. Kedalaman hal-hal penting yang kamu bisa lihat dari awal tim proposisi itu penting banget. Lagi itu terkait dengan proposal debate, if the motion is all about proposal, your proposition itu how, kemudian apa yang membuat dia tuh better than your proposal itu paling gede kamu pertanyakan. Nah itu yang pertama. Nah yang kedua misalnya tadi, for example, uh, overall yang saya suka adalah argumen kalian itu sangat clash dengan apa argumen saya. Mungkin yang paling penting adalah elaborasi lagi itu yang juga menjadi problemnya. Elaborasi misalnya tadi kan ada kamu bilang evaluating schools gitu loh, evaluating schools. Nah sebenarnya kan saya kan tadi nanya loh, kalau emang objektifmu adalah evaluating schools atau misalnya supaya ada evaluasi pendidikan, perlu ada standardized testnya seperti national exam. Nah, aku bilang loh, kan tetap ada skor juga dong, kalaupun kamu ada portofolio, ada project based test, meskipun itu berbasis sekolah. Nah, tadi ada sih kamu tuh sedikit nyeletuk tentang, oh ya, berarti ini ntar cuma berbasis sekolah ya, nggak nasional standar ya kalau begitu. Nah, berarti itu yang kita anggap nggak bisa didapatkan standar itu. Karena kita butuh standar nasional, we need national standard. Nah, sekarang kan ada apa di sekolah? Ada tes apa nama di sekolah? Uh, tes kemampuan akademika, TKA ya. TKA sama asesmen nasional. Nah, yang kurang di kalian adalah tentang evaluasi itu, asesmen nasional itu. Kami tahu kok, memang mungkin ini akan sangat sulit untuk sangat dalam menyentuh knowledge-nya comprehension-nya si students. Tapi kamu bilang dong bahas tentang bagaimana soal itu dibuat. Itu yang nggak dibahas tadi. Bagaimana soal-soal ujian standar itu dibuat. Do you understand? Kan soal itu kan udah melewati uji validitas, uji reliabilitas. Itu uji apa? Uji apakah ini soalnya udah sesuai dengan udah memenuhi standar, apakah udah reliable, apakah udah cocok untuk semua level of students, level of schools. Nah, itu udah diuji semua. Tiba-tiba ada national test itu oleh ahli-ahlinya loh. Nah, itu tadi yang kurang di kalian untuk menjelaskan bagaimana national test itu tuh penting dan bagus. Atau kembali ke tentang evaluasi tadi. Nah, evaluasi secara nasional itu hanya bisa dilakukan dengan cara nasional standar. Nah, kalau kamu pakai portfolio, pakai project test, itu kan cuma berbasis schools. Nah, school itu punya parameternya masing-masing untuk menentukan kelulusan siswa, which is ini lebih nggak fair gitu loh, seperti yang kamu tadi sampaikan, yang kamu bilang. Nah, sehingga pemerintah akan sulit untuk melihat, untuk mengevaluasi mana sekolah yang sudah sesuai, mana sekolah yang sudah cukup, mana sekolah yang perlu untuk dibantu lagi dan seterusnya. Karena itu yang aku tagih di tim proposisi. Aku bilang, kan sekarang kan satu sekolahnya kan fasilitasnya berbeda seterusnya dan seterusnya. Nah, kamu bisa bilang, loh justru itu butuh national exam yang standar secara nasional, bukan based on the school task, bukan based on the project yang school subjectively dia gunakan itu sebagai cara untuk menentukan kelulusan. Itu ya. Nah, kita akan lanjut ke WA ya, sedikit lagi. Ini udah mau habis waktu.